being a fresh person into the podcasting world, we're gonna get into meta podcasting here. But like, I guess, how has the experience been for you? Because for me, I started in 2016 and I had to do everything myself. Like I had to like syndicate my RSS feed to like every individual place where I wanted my podcast to be. And now there's like hundreds of them or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's like just podcasts are everywhere. And so I had to like do that manually. And whenever like, I remember when Spotify added podcasts and I was like, oh crap, I gotta like get in on that too. So how has it been for you?
The first podcast that I did with me and my friend, we didn't really do any promotion, or like I put it on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and then just kind of called it a day. He didn't really want to do too much like promotion and like have like a Twitter, Instagram or whatever, Facebook page. He didn't want to do that really. He was like, oh, this is more for like me to just be able to do it. And I was like, okay. I was like, I get it. But I wanted to do more with it. So when I started this one, that was like my main priority, is to like obviously make a good podcast, but also really make sure that I'm like outputting it. Cause like you said, there's hundreds of thousands of people that are podcasting, and like you kind of have to find your niche like somewhere in there. And I don't know what, do you use like a, I'm going to lose words right now, like a podcast, like site that sends it out. I forget what it's called.
Yeah. Just, I mean, I don't know what they're called, but it's like, I would use my words to call it like a podcast syndication service.
Right. Yeah.
And so it hosts the podcast and you don't have to like put it out on everything.
Yeah. It's a hosting site. That's what it's called.
Yeah. And so I used to just do it through Squarespace. Like Squarespace would have just like an RSS, but you would have to like, again, syndicate it out to like each thing for the first time. And so
you had to do that heavy lifting.
But now at some point a couple years ago, I switched to Anchor.fm. And the main reason is that it's free.
Right. Yeah.
They're not like, it's not a sleek, fancy website. They don't have like crazy amount of features, but it's like, I do the heavy lifting on the audio side. I'm an audio engineer and musician. So it's like, I know what I want it to sound like. So you don't need to do audio leveling or whatever. I got that. And so I literally just got onto Anchor to put it out. And that made it a lot easier although I still have to manually do it to YouTube because it's videos. I wish YouTube would have a thing to where you could like just put in an audio file and then just have an image.
Yep.
And that they would just auto generate it, because there's like a little program that I use because I'm on PC. It's called Virtual Dub.
Okay.
And it's literally that you like load in an image and then you load in an audio file and then it creates this really small video file that is actually just like, because it doesn't make a frame for every for a frame rate. It actually just matches the video length to that. And so like it doesn't make a huge file, which is nice. So, I mean, if you want to put your podcast on it, it's called Virtual Dub. Hey, for other podcast maker people, I think it might be exclusive to PC, but
that's what I'm using anyway. So that's perfect. Yeah. I built one like in the spring last year with the stimulus check.
Oh, nice.
My laptop ended up like crapping out on me. Yeah. And I was doing a video editing course, and my laptop was pretty like hefty for a laptop. Like we got it for a good deal and it was nice, but it was also 8 years old, and something on that was supposed to be on the motherboard shit out. And and one of my friends who's a computer engineer tried to like, we were on like FaceTime and I was like getting really close to the motherboard and all that stuff. And he was trying to help me out. And he was like, that's supposed to be on the motherboard and I don't know where it is. And he's like, I don't know how you're going to be able to get to that. And for those of you who need a little lesson on laptops, they suck. Don't get laptops if you're not willing to pay like $300 every 2 or 3 years. Like, don't get it, because the problem is everything is so compressed. In a laptop, that stuff burns out. It's not fixable, or it's expensive to fix, or it's just like a pain in the ass. So I went with a PC, and my friend helped me like pick out parts, and I built it. So that's it. It's so much better.
Yeah.
So much better.
See, I do so much like mobile stuff. Again, I'm a musician.
Right.
And so like I do gigs using Ableton Live.
Oh yeah.
And like I'm sort of making music on the spot, or like recording loops live on the spot. And so like I have to have a laptop.
Yeah. In those cases, it's like,
yeah, it's just like I'll just I mean, quote unquote build, like there's the websites where you like build the thing itself, and I'll like build a laptop, and that like has been on my list for a while. And I'm like, whenever that amount of money is available, I will do that. So it is a big investment, especially to do a PC. But my big thing is my Xbox also broke at some point. It was like the first generation Xbox One, so it was it's like 6 or 7 years old too. Yeah, it was
and
struggling.
The wife, and I was like, I wasn't gonna get like anything new, because I was like, I'm not gonna spend the money with the new like stuff coming out. I was like, I'm not even like I'm not a crazy gamer. I like to, and it's a good outlet, but between like starting to edit video, like wanting to do a podcast and all this stuff, and then I wanted to like be able to play games and not worry about it, I was like, I'm just gonna do this. And then I know how to build a computer like relatively enough to be able to replace parts if I need to. It's a lot easier to get to. I know what I need to replace, like all that stuff. So I was really glad I did. It was a good learning experience for sure. Like trying to do all that.
I probably will build like just a dedicated gaming PC, because it's like, I mean, my Steam library is just huge from all the sales, and I just never play anything on it. And so I was like, maybe I should get a gaming PC to play all these games that I have. Also, because like there was a bundle for like $5 that was like for like Bundle for Justice or something. And it had like literally thousands of games. And so it's like, I have all of these games at my disposal. I can download them, but I don't know if my computer is able to handle that.
You start getting into the realm of like, can I actually fit this on my laptop or my computer without having too much space like used up? And then you're talking about like whenever you have an audio file, and then you start talking about like having video files or anything like that, and they're 3 or 4 gigabytes each, and then when you put video onto it, it gets 10 to like 15 gigabytes if it's a short, and then it just starts adding up, and then you put games on there and it's like 30 to 40 gigabytes for like regular size games and all this stuff. It's just,
which is why my podcast is just an audio podcast. Like, I mean, luckily it's been through Zoom lately because of the universe being this, or I guess not the universe, the world. I usually use the universe as a word for like everything, but like it is just the world. It's not that big. It's not that big a deal. But like I could put the Zoom video out, but I don't know. It's so much easier with audio, less hard drive space.
And what I've noticed is even with like, I don't know, it's tough too, because it's a lot of work. Like if you don't do it well, it essentially like does the opposite effect that you want it to when you make it. It's like putting out a bad, like when somebody has a bad like gaming video or something, like people don't look at it anymore like, oh my God, they made like a video, they edited it, like all this stuff. And it's like, if it's not a good enough quality, or if it's not well, like if it's not put together like you want it to, like you're not using like a 4K camera when it's on you, like it's not the stuff doesn't mesh very well, like the cutting is weird, the edits are weird, like if it's not doesn't look semi-professional, it kind of has that wrong effect, because people will just move on to somebody that like will do it professionally, or that can do it professionally and do this on the side kind of thing. So like that's my biggest thing, is it's tough because I want to do it really well. I also want to do it, but I also want to do it really well, you know?
Yeah.
Excuse me. But so that's like my only thing about it, is like I want to have like a nice backdrop. Like I have the space filter behind me because my room's a mess, and like the room is the only place I can record in. So it's like that like kind of negates me from wanting to do it a little bit. So it's like little things for me to make it worth doing, to the point where I can put it out and be like, oh, people will want to sit there and watch me talk to somebody. Cause like, I like listening to like the Joe Rogan podcast, for example, but I don't necessarily want to sit and watch the 2 or 3 hours of the interview, like just watching him talk to somebody. Like I need to be doing other things. I can't just like sit there and do nothing and like watch that. So that's kind of like another part of it for me too.
There are people that do, and
right.
I don't know, like I guess maybe people's jobs is just like sitting at home with like 2 screens, and like one screen constantly just has Joe Rogan on it, and the other screen is like your actual job.
Right. Yeah.
But like, man, I stopped listening to Joe Rogan after like it got off of Apple Podcasts, because like went exclusive to Spotify.
Yeah.
I don't listen to podcasts on Spotify. I listen to music on Spotify, and so it's like,
right.
Oh, I haven't seen Joe Rogan in a while. What? Oh,
yeah.
And I mean,
yeah, and like I think there's been one of them that I've watched since he went to Spotify, but it's kind of the same thing. Like, I like the like having an iPhone. It functions easier than going on Spotify, and like I get a discount on like the Apple Music, like the whole thing, because I'm in college and everything like that. So it's it gives me that, and I don't know, there's something that would I'm like a sucker, because at the same time I know that Apple is like just milking like everything it has, you know, to get out of people, and they're not like, they don't give a shit if I'm listening or not. I like the look of it better. I just like the whole setup better. So as soon as he left there, I was like, I didn't really listen to it anymore for whatever reason. But yeah, it's tough to find like what things you should do, what things you shouldn't do. And it's tough, because like we were saying, there's so many people out there that will do what you won't do, or are able to do what you can't do. And then there's people that you're going to be able to do better than they can, and all that stuff. And like, especially for somebody like, we both play music, like I understand audio engineering to a certain degree, just because I have to do like live stuff during gigs. But other than that, like I'm kind of learning more and more on the spot about different like little things and other additions that I can do. And still it seems like I should be able to do more, but it's like, okay, so that's more money or to time. Get that certain equipment. Okay, maybe do more time, more this, more that. And it's like, until you're like being able to fund those things from the actual podcast or videos or whatever you're making, it's really tough to justify like throwing money at it and thinking that's going to be like the solve all problem to like getting to the next step, or being able to do that extra thing and having it succeed. So it's tough. It's tough to find that.
No, and I mean, I've definitely, so like I have like a side business, or it's my LLC, but it's like I edit and mix podcasts for people. And so
nice.
That is kind of the thing. It's like I also do like consultations to like if people are starting podcasts and stuff like that. And it's like So you can learn all of this audio stuff and get it up to quality, and it'll be like hours and hours of trial and error. And I can explain to you how like compression works. I can explain to you how like just audio maximization and like how limiting works and how to get the best quality sound. And then you're gonna have to like buy a good microphone if you really want all of that to sound good. And then you're gonna like, you know, you can probably use Adobe Audition. You could probably use like Reaper or something if you really want to get like more crazy about it. I mean, a lot of people use Audacity because that's also free, but it's like, or you could spend the money, go really, really professional. And like, it's just so much that it's like, or you can just pay me. I already know these things and you don't have to worry about it. And so that's like, it is scary because I mean, especially nowadays, everyone's trying to start a podcast because everyone's stuck at home and they want to feel like they have friends. And so I understand the feeling of like, ooh, cool, let me start a new thing because I have all this free time. And then it's like, as soon as people jump in, because I've had several friends as well try and start podcasts and then realize that like, oh shit, this is a lot of work.
And especially since like the only thing that like saved me from being like too scared about it was because I did the other one and I learned a lot just from like trying to have two people talking to one mic. It's a condenser mic, it picks up everything. We had a lot of issues. I think I talked about it when we talked before, and from just learning from that helped not be so scared about jumping into a new one. But if I had no like audio, like background, even the minor stuff that I have now with live engineering and stuff, like it would have been a lot more scary, like you said, because as soon as you start it, like it's hard to get somebody back to redo a podcast.
Yeah.
If you screwed something up. And like most people are going to be like, well, didn't you have this backup? Or didn't you like think that the like blah, 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 like, didn't you have these precautions? And you're like, I didn't know I should, you know? And it's, so it does have that like scariness to it, especially when you, like you said, it starts to pick up and you're getting like more guests and people are reaching out to you and you're like, oh, this is kind of like a thing now. This is kind of like part of what I'm doing right now, you know, like I had that moment like last week where I was like scheduling out all my people that I was having for the next like month or so. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm actually like getting like people interested and like people wanting to be on the show and like people are liking it from what they're telling me, like, whatever like that. And it all of a sudden it was like, oh, I'm actually like doing a podcast. Like I'm not just like sitting there like talking to people. Like I'm actually doing a podcast. I'm advertising. I'm putting it on a bunch of places. Like the views are going up, they're going down, they're going up, they're going down. Like I'm actually like investing like time and effort into like making this a thing. And all of a sudden it becomes like part-time job that you don't get paid for until you get to a certain point. And it is like, it's something that you can either like embrace or that's why most people like stop doing it. Yeah. It's because they get to like this point and they're like, yeah, this is just too much time, too much effort, not enough return.
And sometimes people like get there from the other side to where it's like, maybe there's someone who like has a big social media presence and they're like fairly popular and stuff. And then they'll like start it and like people jump on it. And then they realize how much work it is. And it's like, you have to disappoint all of these people to be like, yeah, I know it was like a whole big push whenever all this started and everything, but sorry, I just can't anymore. And it sucks.
It does. Yeah. And I can imagine that end of it. For the first like 3 or 4 weeks that I was doing it, I wish that I was like popular on social media so that this would like, so I could just see this numbers like skyrocket and I would be like, yeah, like I'm doing great. But it's actually more like rewarding when you know that you're getting like a few hundred views, or like overall, like they're going up like 10, 20, 30, 40, like every couple of days. You're like, oh, and you're like, I don't know this many people. So
Yeah.
it feels a little more rewarding that you're having people come back, and you can look at like your analytics and look at like the like the unique like viewership or unique downloads and all that stuff, and you can see that go up. And then you're like, these are just people that found it somewhere and continue to listen. And that's like kind of, that actually feels more genuine and rewarding than having it just appear just because you like said a few funny things on like social media, or like you vlog, and people like that aspect of it. But then as soon as you sit down like to have a podcast, they're just there just because they were following your vlog, and it's not the same, doesn't have that same return in my mind. If that makes any sense.
Right. And I think the other thing that people don't realize whenever they start a podcast is that it involves talking into a microphone.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's like what a podcast is, but
Right.
I don't think people realize that, like, oh, I have to talk. Like, we have to keep this conversation going, and I have to know how to say words into the microphone. I have to listen to the sound of my own voice. And it's,
you have to like be able to have a like free and open conversation with people, and it's tough sometimes because you're relying on that other person to like want the same thing in that conversation.
Yeah.
And sometimes in a lot of times it works fine because humans are humans and they like to communicate, especially when they sign up for it. But like, I think I the only time I was actually feeling like I was like asking questions and getting like like not as like open-ended answers to conversation that I wanted, and it was like my third episode or something, and I was like, oh, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And then I had the fourth one, and I was like, all right, well, maybe it wasn't like so much me, but I learned more from it in that aspect. And it, like you said, it's like you have to be able to think of stuff to say. You have to be able to think of like something to just bring up and talk about. And then it's like you have to be open about talking about experiences and like your life a little bit too. And it's a lot of people don't realize that it's more complicated than just like, so you're here and you made a podcast, or you're doing a movie. How was that experience? It's like, okay, like, you know, like you gotta indulge them a little bit more than that, you know?
Sure. But at the same time, it is also like, oh yeah, it was fun.
Right. And then you're sitting there, you're like, okay, now
how do I pull
I didn't have a
out of this?
Yeah. I didn't write down a follow-up. Because I started writing down questions for a while, like for probably the first half of like most of my episodes. I was like physically writing questions, and I stopped doing questions and just wrote talking points because I realized those were better. And that might be obvious if you're like a pro or like you're doing it for a while. But that was one thing that I realized. I was like, questions don't really get you anywhere. You bring up a topic and you see what their reaction is to it. And you go from there. Like that makes it more organic than saying like, oh, and I heard you doing this. It's more like, oh, and like you're looking at this, and oh, like we got this. Oh, you did this. Like, what can you say about that? What can we do? Like, oh, you were doing that. Like I was doing this.
Yeah.
Like, how are they similar? How are they different?
It's funny because I kind of went through like phases where like for a while there, I did just like prepare all of the questions ahead of time. And I mean, you were on mine. And so like I have my like evergreen questions, which is just like, who are you? What do you do? And then like the second half being just like these big existential deep questions, which I feel is what sort of separates my podcast from anything else. But it's like for that first like interview part, at first I was like planning out all the questions, And after a while, I realized that like I wasn't giving myself room to like go somewhere. And so it's like,
right. Yep.
If you have all your questions laid out and then it's like, yeah, and that's how I got to shake hands with Barack Obama. And I was like, okay, so then what about this thing that you did? It's like, you can't just let that slide. You have to like allow room to where it's like, hold on a second, let's stop everything and like tell us a little bit more about this thing because this seems really interesting.
Right.
And so when you're that rigid with it, you're not like giving yourself room. I've gotten to the point to where instead of like preparing all my questions, I just do like a soft amount of research on the guest and like not so much that I know everything about them that it's creepy, but enough to like, oh, this seems interesting. I'm going to ask them about that. So then it's, you're letting your genuine curiosity drive the conversation because we're human beings trying to talk to each other rather than just like, I'm a journalist trying to get cool responses out of a person. It's like, no, I just like people and I'm interested in all the different things that make people and why they do what they do. And that's sort of what's driven me. And so it's like, it's not so much that it's a lack of preparation, but it's like being willing and open to just like actually listen and ask questions based on what people are saying instead of like, I feel like I have to ask this question and this is the next thing.
It's like you said, it stops you from limiting yourself and opens up you to be free thinking in the moment, which is the most important part of trying to keep that conversation going, or like you said, not letting something slide by just because you're like, oh, well, I wanted to get to that specific question that I had planned. And it's like, you have to be willing to kind of throw that away a little bit. Like if I remember I was talking to, have you talked to Brendan from Master Talk?
I did. I saw that you had him on and I was like, oh, hey, you also put out Justin McAleese and he's going to be mine in like by the end of the month.
He is so much fun to talk to. Both of them are so much fun to talk to. You'll have to, did you watch Justin's movie, Brick Madness?
I haven't yet, but I've been meaning to because he sent me an email when
definitely
it came out. I was like, ooh, I'm excited to watch that.
It's really good. I laughed. It's like a mockumentary and it made me laugh.
Yeah.
But either way, when I was talking to Brendan, he brought up the competitions that he did. And immediately I was like, you need to tell me more about these competitions and how they function, like who goes there, what does like, and he was so like excited to talk about it. And it ended up being most of the podcast. He was like breaking down these like competitions and telling me about those experiences and how intense they were and all that stuff. And I was like, and like, if I had the recording of the video, you just see me go, and more?
Yeah, exactly.
More? Like, I'm like, oh my God. Cause it was like a whole world was just opened up of something that I had no idea existed. And that was like a moment for me where I was like, okay, cool. Like I got to make sure I'm doing stuff like that because that was a really good decision because he totally just like went on a tangent of like great like content of talking about something he was super passionate about and how it shaped what he does now. And that was like a learning moment for me because I was like, okay, I can do this. Like I can actually do this. I'm not just pretending to do this, you know?
Right. Well, and, sorry, go ahead.
No, I could keep talking, but go ahead.
Well, I feel like, I don't know, there's this kind of, everything is like spectrums nowadays, but like there's a spectrum of like being genuinely curious about people and like trying to get good content. And it might be more of like a grid or a circle or whatever. Cause if you're just trying to get good content, you may not necessarily get there because you'll seem like really shallow. But by genuinely being passionate about people and what they're passionate about and like leaning into that, you can actually get better content out of that. Not because you're trying to get better content out of it, but just because you're interested in who people are genuinely. And so it's like, there's so much, I don't know. You've probably seen all of the like, join my like class and I'll show you how to like master social media in like 30 minutes or whatever. And then like buy my thing, which is how those usually are. But it's like, they always have like these little things that it's like, do this every time and like always focus on this. And like all these points that are so like machine based, like you can just crank it out in this machine. And it's like, here, you'll have like quality content. And it kind of like drains the humanity out of it. And so for me, like I'm so focused on people and who people are and why they're passionate about what they're passionate about and the way that their beliefs shape who they are, that it's like I could care less if someone has like read up on moral philosophy as much as I have, which is an annoying amount. But the like, I like hearing people's different answers. It shapes who I am as a person. And at the end of the day, like if I have like a really good conversation with someone, it doesn't matter how many people listen to it, just because like I enjoyed that conversation. And so
I don't want to make it seem like I'm like a numbers guy and like totally focused on that. But that's like, mostly but I totally get what you're saying, because that's like, it has to come from like an honest core. So for the success of like something, you have to like, people can like you were saying, people know when somebody isn't being genuine or doesn't care. Like it's very hard for somebody to genuinely fake being genuine. You know, it's something that people pick up on just as like human nature.
Oh, you mean like Hollywood genuine, you're not
actually right. And it's like, if you don't actually care about who you're talking to, or are interested in them, like just don't do it, because you're not doing it for the right reason at that point. And I genuinely am interested in the people that I interview. I always make sure that like what they're doing is something that I would want to talk about. It's like something I'm interested in or something I'm doing that's similar. Like I just talked to another podcaster who kind of does the same podcast I do, where he talks to people and just like is like conversation time. And we got into a really good conversation about like how people don't necessarily like want to know more about people, and yet they're the ones that are like kind of pulling the strings about things, you know. And people start to realize that, and people notice that, and it's like, okay, like we know you're not doing this for the good reason. And it's the same thing when it comes to entertainment. Same with a musician. If people don't think you're actually like, people can tell if you're playing a song and you don't care about the song, they don't care about the song either now.
Yeah.
If you're talking to somebody and you're not asking genuine questions and you're not like on top of the conversation and being interested, and like, if you're not genuinely interested, people are going to pick up on that and they're not going to be interested anymore either. So it's like, you have to have that realization of saying, okay, like if I'm going to do this, I have to like actually like think to myself, am I genuinely interested in these people, or am I just doing this because I want to make a podcast and like try to make money or try to get like popular or something? And it's like, you can do both, but you kind of have to have like, has to come from that genuine core of wanting to like help, like either share somebody's interests. Like you're sharing people's passions. Like that's like what you do. You ask them like about their passions and they get to share that. And that's a beautiful thing that people get to do.
Yeah.
And so it, like, in a roundabout way, coming to a conclusion here on my essay. it has to come to for it to be successful. It has to be from a genuine like point. And if it's not going to be successful, because at some point, like, people will realize it. And at some point your guests are going to realize it. And at some point you're not going to have any guests because they don't want to come on your show because people aren't going to talk to people that aren't genuinely interested in them.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of that double-edged sword of like, you kind of have to understand yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
Before you do something.
And I mean, sometimes you might also get guests who don't necessarily feel like they want to be on your show. And you also kind of have to like pull them in and be like, no, like, where are we going with this? Like, I want you to show yourself here. Yeah. I haven't gotten to a point where a podcast was like bad enough that I was just like, I don't think I can release this.
Right.
But there have been some times where I've gotten close. I'm not going to name names, but like it is like, come on, I just need a little bit more from you. But even still, it's like, and you know, I'll like go to my friends and be like, was this as bad as I'm making it out to be? Because we're our worst critics. And like a friend of mine was like, no, that one was actually like really interesting. It's like, oh, okay, good. Because that felt really difficult.
Yeah. And it's tough too, because there's people out there that are great at like being like public speakers, but it's a totally different art to be a conversationalist. And that's something that like kind of gets lost in the mix a little bit, is when people say, oh, they're great at like talking in front of a crowd, like you should like talk to them. And it's like, well, talking in front of a crowd with a prepared speech and information is totally different than like having an open-ended conversation about anything, you know?
Exactly.
And
that's actually something I've been thinking about for a little bit, is that like talk shows, for example, like for years they've had like comedians having different people, notably actors and musicians and stuff like that. But it's like, not every actor or musician is going to be good on a talk show, or for that matter on a podcast. And like kind of goes back to saying, it's like, not everyone should start a podcast, but it's like sometimes, or a lot of times, musicians are these awkward introverted people that only come out of their shell whenever they're performing on stage. And so you're like putting them on this like different kind of stage and expecting them to talk. And it's like, sorry, I put all my words, like I think about them really hard and I put them into like this very intricate poetry that I like structured together, and then I like put it out in the thing. And so it's like, if you want to access me, that's the medium in which you can access me. But not every musician is going to be great at just talking, because then if you just like throw something at them, it's like, I don't know how to like talk about this unless like mull it over for a year and then put it into an album. Like and I mean, even when you take like my guitar away from like the front of me, if I'm playing a show or something and I don't have my guitar anymore, I'm like so much more like skittish about singing, because I don't have like my safety net, you know, because like as soon as you take that guitar away, you're a singer now. You're not a guitar playing singer. And so it's that same mentality where it's like you take away what gives them comfort, and like they're not going to be the same person. You put a guitar in front of me, I'm a totally different person, because that's like, it's my home place, you know? Yeah. So it is that like weird thing. And like even ultra famous like musicians like Neil Peart, was notorious for not wanting to meet fans, not wanting to talk to people after shows, not wanting to talk to people before shows. And it was genuinely just because he had social anxiety. But people thought that he was just rude. Like this was at like times where they didn't understand that so much. And they just thought he was rude or like not friendly, whatever it was. And it was like, no, he's at home in those drums. And when you see him like having a good time, that's because he's on the drums or he's with people that he's comfortable with. Yeah. As soon as you take that away, it's like he's socially
like anxious, he's uncomfortable, he doesn't know how to talk to people the way that he feels it's comfortable, and like so it comes in all forms, and it's like you said, it's tough to like take somebody from one stage and put them on another and just expect them to be just as interesting or like magnificent, you know?
Yeah. Well, it was the same thing with like actors, or something to say about Neil Peart is that like he also wrote the lyrics for Rush. And so it's like he was very intricate and all of that stuff too. Yes. And like all the musical complexity that goes into that, that takes time to like hone that and make it into like a cool thing. But then it's just like, hey, now talk to people spontaneously, and like, and then they're telling you just how like, oh, you changed my life and stuff like this. And it's like, I don't know what to say. I just like, but it's the same thing with actors too. It's like actors rehearse lines and have like things in place for them to say. So like someone else says something and then I say something back, and this is the thing. And so if you change that on me, it's going to mess me up. And so it's like, some actors are like trained in that way, and it's like, I know the script and I'm going to perform it really well. And then it's like, all right, now talk spontaneously for 15 minutes. And it's like, I don't know, I don't have any lines, this is weird.
Yeah. And that's why I've had really good experiences like being able to talk to like comedians and stuff. I like talking to comedians because they are the improvers, they are the on your feet people, like the quick, you know, the quick thinkers, the quick jokers, whatever it is. And if you do want to have an entertaining show with people that you see on TV or something, like get your comedians or your comedic actors in there, because those are the people that are going to spice it up.
Yeah,
because that's their job. But it's like, with when you're pulling off like a classically trained actor or classically trained like musician or something, that it was never about like the spotlight, so to speak. It's more about like the artistic value in it. Because there are musicians and there are actors and actresses who just do it for the spotlight. Obviously, that's how everything is. But it's really tough to really change the stages of like where you're comfortable and then just do something else. You have to have like a part of you that is what you're doing, you know?
That's something that I've noticed about just like improvisation in general. So like people who are experienced in improvisation will be a little bit more on their feet, will like allow that yes and to happen, that like and I've seen it so much in music where, I mean, I'm in I guess was one of the trio is like getting his doctorate in Texas. So we're in different places now, but it's like, I was in this experimental electronic trio that was like all improvised music. And so like our music is pretty much entirely improvised. And so it's like that same level of communication that's happening through conversation is also happening in music. And it's like, oh, cool, that's a cool thing you're doing over there, I'm going to do this over here. And it's like, oh, and then they react to that. Like musical improvisers also are able to kind of think on their feet. But like, I don't know if you've ever asked a classical musician to like just play something, go for it. They're like, I don't know, like what key are we in? What are we doing? It's like and it's scary because it's like in classical music, nobody really focuses on improvisation or just making stuff up. And so if you put someone on the spot like that, it's like, I don't know, there's no music on the page, I don't know what to do. Whereas like jazz musicians, it's just like, hey, take it. I was like, all right, sweet. I've been waiting for this. And so
that's what I love about the improvisation. It's like it's fun to just be able to like throw something together and have it come out pretty good, you know? That's probably the most rewarding, like one of the most rewarding things is where you're like sitting there, you're like jamming with your friends or something, you're like, hey, we made this up and this doesn't sound half damn bad, you know? Like,
exactly.
It's like, and we just kind of felt it, you know? It's a cool feeling.
And there's
like it.
there's a weird balance in between there too, because it's like there are times where it's like if you're jamming with a band or something, it's like, whoa, those like 30 minutes just flew by. It's like you talk to someone else who was in the room, is like, that was too long. You guys need to like find a place to cut that out. It's like, no, it felt great. Like I was doing this thing, and then it's like, yeah, it was the same loop for like 20 minutes.
Downs, guys, what are you talking about? Yeah, it was a 20-minute down and a 5-minute up. We get it. Like, yeah, no, that was so the band that I'm in right now, we do covers, and we're working in like originals and stuff, but we love jam band stuff. And me and the guy who has been my good friend for probably like close to 10 years, we jammed in his basement for the longest time, just me and him, because we struggled to find people that would like want to actually form a band. This was like starting like junior year of high school kind of thing. And I was sitting on drums and he was on guitar, and every once in a while his dad would come down and play with us too. But most of it was us just trying to learn songs like on the spot. So he'd pull up like the chord sheet, like, and the words, and he'd have Mike and I'd be on the drums. And that's how we figured out songs. And like, and then we would go beyond that jamming, and then we had a few people come and go and stuff. But so me and him always had like a really good chemistry with that, because we basically learned how to play like songs together as a band. Yeah. And then so when we started like making jams and like doing stuff, it was always like me and him kind of leading the ship a little bit, and I'd follow him, he'd follow me, and all that stuff. And it's really interesting when you go from like, because then I got off of drums and we brought in a new drummer, and you can tell when they're just like, it almost was like very different. Guy was a lot better drummer than I was, but he didn't have the same like learn from scratch mentality. Yeah. And that just wasn't how he learned how to play. Not like a knock on him by any means. Like he's a fantastic drummer. But he didn't have like that same like starting point as us. Yeah. So where we were like, oh, we'll just try to throw this together. He was like, what do you mean we're just going to throw it together? I was like, we're just going to throw it together, you know, like we kind of know the song well enough. We're just going to jam with it, have some fun. And he's like, yeah, but what are we going to do in the song? And it took him a while to like realize that it's just open-ended for us. And it's a really funny thing when you realize like how you kind of learn things like music, because it shapes everything that comes after it. Like if you start from like that base of learning strict like musical theory and like straight from the page, it is so hard to break that mold when you like are like kind of told to just do it. And I'm glad I didn't necessarily start out like that, because it's so much easier to jump in with people. Like when somebody's like, hey, like, do you want to come play a few songs with us? And I'm like, sure. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. I don't have that fear, because if they say, oh, it's in the key of G or the key of A and stuff, like I know what I can do with that. Instead of like sitting there going, okay, well, what's the progression? What do I have to do with this? What's the feel? What's the tempo? You know what I mean? Like I can just sit there for a second and be like, okay, this is the beat, this is the tempo. Like, so it is an interesting thing. And especially with that, like, coming around to it, like you can tell the personality differences, like you were saying, between people who are improvisers and people who are like more like book oriented when it comes to that stuff. And it's a very interesting thing, because we all do the same thing, generally speaking. You know, we play the same instruments, just play them a little differently, you know, but the personality differences are really funny. It's like a whole different world when you get down to it.
I feel like something that isn't normally understood with music, and kind of also through a lot of other different creative mediums, is that there's a lot of practice and woodshedding and like just messing with stuff. And that's a little bit of what podcasting is as well. Like it is improvisation, but it is also like, I'm just taking this thought that I had and I'm expanding upon it right now as we're talking. And so the words that are coming out of my mouth are as new to me as they are to you. And so it's like, well, this person said this thing and it was like awful. What would happen if blah, blah, blah. And it's like, can you just let me like think out loud? And so it's like improvisation and practice is kind of that, like, let me try this idea. I don't know if it'll work, but like, let's see where this goes. Yeah. And that is kind of the nice part about podcasting, which is like you're able to kind of go wherever you feel, and like nothing's, I mean, what's set in stone is that it's recorded, but it's like nothing is set in stone in the way that, like, I don't know, man, this is just who I am today. And I might be someone else tomorrow. And I might look back on this conversation that I had and be like, whoa, like, I don't feel that way anymore. But that's something that I want people to understand too, is that like, we're all kind of, anything that you hear that is recorded is just like a snapshot in time of that person. And and so like something I do for my podcast, every 100 episodes, I will have a person close to me interview me. And so over time I can see how I've changed. And so,
oh, that's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it ends up being like 2 years apart, because there's 52 weeks in a year and I put out a podcast every week. But like each time that it happens, I mean, I've only done 2 of them so far, but each time that it happens, I'm like, oh, I see how I like got to there from the last time. Or whenever I'm on someone else's podcast and I answer similar questions, I'm like, oh, that was a little bit different than I normally do. Or I like have that so refined now that I don't have to like think about it anymore. And so it's like, it's weird how some of these things are like changing, but then some of them are like solidifying. And a podcast is just kind of a representation of where you are at that point in time. But it's like, we're all just trying stuff. We're all just messing around here. And whether it be music, whether it be conversation, we're all just kind of trying, seeing. It's like, oh, even though I didn't know what words were about to come out of my mouth, I liked what ended up coming out of my mouth. That's cool. I might keep that in my back pocket the next time.
Right. Well, and that's why I'm scared to go back and listen to this, because this is the first like actual interview I've done like as like a new podcaster in person doing podcasting. And so I'm like, this is like my first actual time like talking about it, and I picked the one that like dives the deepest into like your soul. So I was like, figured if I'm gonna dive in, I might as well dive in head first, which is great, because that's why I keep laughing at myself when I'm like, oh, I'm just rambling, because I'm not a huge rambler when I talk to people I don't know. But I was like, all right, I just got to be open and like do all this. And I'm like, it's going to be so interesting to look back in this when it releases and just be like, what was I even talking about? Why was I saying like all this stuff just to say something so simple? And it's like exactly what you said. It comes down to just learning. It's refining what you're thinking and evolving it from its most like infant state. So if I say like how I feel, like we were talking about last time we talked about, like what my perception is of like God and all the universe and all that stuff. And, I rambled on for so long, and like, I can't wait to go back and listen to like see where I could be like more finite and more concise about something. Cause it is very hard to think of things on the spot and think concisely on the spot like that, especially when it's something so like vast and open-ended and deep. It's like how, and I was trying to prepare mentally in terms of like what I could say or how I should say. And then I was like, you know what? No, whatever comes out of my mouth, that's what I believe at that moment.
Exactly.
Just like you're saying, it's like, that's what it is. Because if you prepare too much, it's no longer authentic. And I think my ramblings show the authenticity, because that's me not preparing very, like not trying to come up with quotes. It's like coming up with genuine thought about it, you know?
Right. And
But
not everyone
yeah, it's very funny.
Not everyone's having these conversations all the time. Like, it's not like you're going
Right.
to just be like hanging out with your friends or something and be like, hey, what do you think happens when we die? And it's like, sometimes it happens, but like sometimes it's got to be like 3 a.m. and like you've been drinking a little bit. But it's like, or, you know, like, and I'm sort of open to these conversations all the time because that's just who I am now. Or I feel like I've kind of always been that way. But I understand that like whenever I hit someone with these questions and maybe they start rambling a little bit, or maybe they're like, ooh, hold on, let me think about this for a second. It's like, yeah, I understand. It's not every day that someone like asks you what your definition of God is. Like, and I mean, and for me, it's like, I think about it all the time and I hear people's answers all the time. And so it might be a little bit, sometimes if someone asks me a question that like is so basic that it might be the opposite effect for me. And it's like, oh, geez, I don't know. Whereas like, if you ask me my definition of God, like I'll definitely like go into that. And I've thought about it and I've talked about it over time and talked to different people about it. And so it's like, we're all the nice part about those questions for my podcast is that everyone's at least thought about it. And it's like, you can't just give someone a question that like they have no opinion about. It's like, so how about the New York Giants this season? And it's like,
I don't even want to talk about that.
Yeah, like you might have landed on someone who knows about this.
Right.
And maybe you didn't. And so it's like, I don't know anything about sports. Don't ask me that question. I'm just not going to say anything. But it's like, everyone's at least thought about a little bit. It's like, I'm going to die at some point and I should probably think about this. Or it's like, I've made a decision and I feel guilty about that. Why is that? And these are things that we all think about. And so it's like, it's not so out there that it's just going to be like, I don't know, sorry. And sometimes those answers do happen and that's okay. But I do appreciate when it's like, all right, what leads you to be like, I don't know? Because that's also a weirder thing too, is that like, especially for things that like maybe you should have an answer for.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, what do you think at least? Can you give me some opinions? There's nothing set in stone here, but it's like, let's see what's there.
And I think a lot of that too is like when you say I don't know, you're kind of saying that you do have an opinion, you just aren't sure about it, and that kind of misses the point of the question. So it's not so much like, do you know what happens when you die? It's more like, what do you think happens? Like it's more of that laid back, like if you had to take a shot in the dark, what would you think? You know? So I think when people say I don't know to those important questions, they're more likely avoiding thinking about it or acknowledging that maybe nothing happens. Because I think that is a major fear for a lot of people, especially when they're raised maybe religious or non-religious and they don't agree with one side or the other. And it's like, I think that is like something that I naively didn't care about, like in high school, was saying like, hey, God isn't real. Nothing, like, you know, nothing happens when you die. You just die. And then you start like thinking about how weird shit happens and it's like almost unexplainable. And then you're like, well, there's got to be, and you try to come up with every excuse to say, oh, well, maybe it's this. And it's like, why does it have to be this? Why does it have to be that? Why does it have to be an answer? It's not about finding the answer. It's about contemplating the answer.
Exactly.
And it's about how that affects your day to day. Like, are you going to like be more motivated by the fact that nothing happens when you die? Or are you going to be less motivated by the fact that nothing happens when you die? Are you going to be more motivated to do a lot with your life if you think that there's a heaven or hell? Or are you going to be less motivated to do anything because there's a heaven or hell and you feel like that's going to happen? So it's not so much about what the exact answer is. when I think about it more, it's more so about how that answer is going to affect the way that I live day to day, whether it motivates me or unmotivates me. And I think that is, you know, like an attached question that people can also think about is like, what is my belief in God, and does that affect my day to day in a positive way or a negative way? Does it consume my thought in a sense that I'm angry about it or not angry about it? Does it distract me? Does the thought of dying tomorrow and not going to heaven or hell and just having darkness affect the decisions I make every day? And it's like, that's personal to you, you know? And that's like kind of what everybody has to think about a little bit. And I think that's an important thought to have, because it's no longer surface level, like wake up, follow in line, and then die. Like at some point, you know, it's more like, how can you make your life more or less effective by these thoughts? And I think people would think a lot differently and act a lot differently if they did contemplate these things. So it's like,
and I hope
it's
that
interesting
in asking the questions, that even if people hadn't really thought about it before, that I've at least sort of motivated some contemplation on that front. And that even maybe when they look back and listen to it and be like, wow, that is what I think about it. And that's like something else in that. And so like, I don't know, it's the exploration of the idea rather than having an answer. And I don't know, a lot of times I am kind of bothered whenever people are like, well, I'm not qualified to answer that question. It's like, I'm not looking for answers here. But, and another funny thing is that, and this will probably be like the last thought, but,
sure.
I feel like sometimes people assume that because I make it a point to ask about religion and spirituality, that I am very religious, which is actually not the case. I don't believe in God. It seems very unlikely to me, given the evidence. But like for some reason, I've had a number of people like start to like kind of, oh, well, you know, I don't believe in God, but like, and it's like, look, I don't believe in God. There's nothing you can say that will offend me. You could just go on. But like, for some reason, having a podcast that is focused on spirituality feels like people tend to assume that I'm very religious, which is not the case. I'm not religious. I'm very spiritual though.
And I think that's an interesting thing too, because I think, and in a very like short manner, that if anybody ever wants me to explain it more, they can. I won't spend too much longer doing that. But religion was very different 2,000 years ago, and it was a lot more spiritual than it was religious. And like, you can fight me on that, but you're wrong. People can fight me on that, and they're wrong. It was very different the way that they viewed religion. It wasn't the same way that we view it now, where there's a man in the sky. It was a lot more spiritual, where God represented something else rather than a man in the sky. It wasn't about having like the father be like I said, the man. Like it wasn't a guy. It wasn't about that. It was it's more like an energy or spirituality.
It's
like,
symbols.
and so it's
and ideas and
it's representation of something.
And it may not be like literal, but it's like what, and that's something I feel like is where a lot of my spirituality has sort of grown back into being, because I kind of first started this podcast a little bit after I had like jumped out of religion, because I was raised Catholic, and I was like angry atheist phase. And like, exactly. And like people who have come out of religion know that one really well, but it's like, it's like all religion is stupid. And if you believe in it, you're stupid. And I'm mad at you. And I'm mad at everyone for being religious and just being okay with religion in general. But instead it's sort of just become like, hey, like, you do what you want to, but let's talk about it. And I think for me, that's where like I've become way more spiritual because of my, I mean, now like hundreds of conversations with people about this topic. And so it's like, I've heard a lot of different perspectives from different people. And so it's like, it's nice to hear all the different ideas and hear all the different thoughts and sort of like, I kind of use this symbol in music as well of sort of chiseling away at the marble that isn't the statue. And so it's like, maybe there's not an answer, but I'm like starting to approach something more of an answer, at least to me. And that's the point of the conversation.
And it's important because being a spiritual person doesn't even like, it feels like people like use that for a lot of different reasons or a lot of different things, but like, it doesn't have to mean like anything specific either. It's kind of like that understanding of like there's energy out there and you can output like good or bad. And
or like we're connected. We're all connected in some way.
And it's like, you can't explain it. Like we can't explain it yet, but like what people 2000 years ago couldn't explain, we can explain now. And it's like, well, in 2000 more years or less or whatever it's going to be, they're going to find what connects us or what energy is like makes the universe go around. And that's why I always reference like that, whatever that force or that energy is that makes the universe go around, whether you're alive or dead, or like a planet explodes, like whatever, like major or minor thing can happen, the universe still spins now, or
diminished.
Right. And it's like,
that was a music it's like joke. Sorry.
But like, to me, it's more important to understand that there is a greater thing happening around you that isn't religious, or there isn't a God to it necessarily, but there is something that like binds the universe together, and it's like it connects everything. So why is that weird to think about, or why is that like not an answer so much as like saying that there's a God, there's Jesus Christ, there's all these things, like whether you're Catholic or whatever. But that's always a weirder answer to tell people like than just saying you're Catholic. Like that's always like the weirdest thing to me too, is when like I say, oh yeah, and like I'm like kind of more like there's an energy in the universe and like everything's spinning, you know, like whatever, and we're all connected. And they're like, don't you just want to be like Christian or Jewish or something?
I don't have a word for that. I can't put you in a box, so you're gonna have to find a box for me so I can put you in it. And
I just joke around with my girlfriend. I call it the Force, and I just say I'm a Jedi.
And on that note, Perry, thank you so much for doing this with me.
No, thank you for doing a little crossover event here. With let me take this and use as part of my podcast too. That'll be fun. So
I guess I'm
glad we got to talk, because this was great.
We can plug each other's stuff. So where can we find you and your things?
You can find me on Facebook is the main spot that I'm at. If you just look up, like if you put up in the URL, like facebook.com/the off topic pod, that's the easiest way to get to the page, because there's 100 off topic podcasts. Didn't realize that when I started it. And then you can find me on like Spotify and Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. I'm on a bunch of different things. But
wherever the heck you listen to podcasts.
Wherever you listen to podcasts, it's probably there. Captivate.fm really hooked me up. So you can find me on all that stuff. What about you?
I'm Santiago Ramones. You can find everything that I do on my website, santiagoramones.com. I'm also on Instagram, which is probably like the main place where I do stuff. So Santiago Ramones Music, or like BitDepth has its own Instagram. So it's bit.depth, because BitDepth was taken, darn it. But you know, as you just said, it's like you gotta look at those things before you start the thing. But at least BitDef as a podcast is set. But yeah, that's so brilliant, I make music. You can find me on Spotify as Santiago Ramones, and you can also find that experimental electronic trio under Power Cycle, because we learned very quickly that electronics work whenever you turn them off and on. As anyone who interfaces with technology learns very quickly. But yeah, so Power Cycle and Santiago Ramones on Spotify, and really just anywhere you listen to podcasts. This is BitDef. Yeah.
Thank you guys. Yeah, this was fun.
Sweet. Thank you. Love never fails. It's going to be okay. I might be wrong.